Welcome to Monday Morning with Corey. So, good morning, everyone. I'm starting my first Monday morning series, and this is going to be something that will represent something in current events in relation to research. So it could be any type of research: science, academic, technology, food, pop culture, anything that inspires analysis, creative, intellectual, or philosophical thought, anything that can be discussed and has an effect on society and that's productive. So that is a broad range of topics. So, for this first topic, I really would like to start with something that I'm more familiar with, which is science. And there's so much going on in the science field right now that there's no way I could sum up everything. So, I'm going to choose one thing that I just learned is happening, and I'll read you two articles from it, and then I will summarize my thoughts on the issue, and I sincerely hope to hear back from you about what your thoughts are, and I hope it can spark some really interesting discussion this Monday morning. And even if it's past Monday, please feel free to leave your thoughts below because I would love to see how we change over time, even. So, before I keep rambling on, and without further ado, please enjoy this video discussing the topic of genetic modification. Thank you and enjoy. You can now design a living creature, print its DNA with a 3D printer, and grow it. Scientists from Cambrian Genomics have made it possible for you to design living creatures on a computer and send them the code. You can design a living creature and send them the code. They will then print out the DNA and send it to you in powder format to be put inside of a cell. Touted as the most powerful technology humans have ever created, Cambrian Genomics has recently raised $10 million to further this new form of democratized creation. The concept is to put the DNA into the hands of anyone with an adequate 3D printer, effectively making it possible for everyone to create life or assemble life. Assemble the molecular basis, the molecular instructions for an organic organism. I can feel myself shaking with excitement writing about this, though I am interested to see it in action before I say too much. I can see this technology recreating the animals humans have driven to extinction, as well as populating other planets with a vibrant biosphere. This is from San Francisco Gate, the business section. Controversial DNA startup wants to let customers create creatures. In Austin Hines' vision of the future, customers tinker with the genetic codes of plants and animals and even design new creatures on a computer. Then his startup, Cambrian Genomics, prints that DNA quickly, accurately, and cheaply. Anyone in the world that has a few dollars can make a creature, and that changes the game, Hines said, and that creates a whole new world. The 31-year-old CEO has a deadpan demeanor that can be hard to read, but he is not kidding. In a makeshift laboratory in San Francisco, his synthetic biology company uses lasers to create custom DNA for major pharmaceutical companies. Its mission to democratize creation with minimal to no regulation frightens bioethicists as deeply as it thrills Silicon Valley venture capitalists. With the latest technology and generous funding, a growing number of startups are taking science and medicine to the edge of science fiction. In the works or on the market are color-changing flowers, cow-free milk, animal-free meat, tests that detect diseases from one drop of blood, and pills that tell doctors whether you have taken your medicine. Totally new organisms. But few founders are pushing the technical and ethical boundaries of science as far as Heinz, who told the Wall Street Journal, quote, "I can't believe that after 10 or 20 years people will not design their children digitally," end quote. At a recent conference in Vienna, he said, "We want to make totally new organisms that have never existed." His 11-person team has raised $10 million from more than 120 investors, including Peter Thiel's venture firm Founders Fund. It's a fundamentally new technology that can open up a whole new industry, said partner Scott Nolan. Venture capitalist Timothy Draper, another investor, praises Heinz as an exceptional leader with a unique passion for his business. "I love Cambrian," he wrote in an email. "The company is literally printing life. Can't wait to see all the great things that come of it." To be clear, Cambrian isn't printing designer babies or dinosaurs. Yet. Still, its rhetoric alarms critics. Marsky Darnovsky, executive director of the Center for Genetics and Society, a bioethics watchdog group in Berkeley, sums up Heinz's belief that, quote, "every problem can be solved by engineering," end quote, as a kind of, quote unquote, techno-libertarianism. We have to take seriously people like Austin Heinz who say they want to modify future generations of human beings and upgrade the human species, she said. "I think that technical project is far more complicated than they acknowledge. Nonetheless, their story about what we should be striving for as human beings, as a society, I think is very troubling." So, what do you think? What do I think? First of all, I think that we are way over our heads as a species to be trying to manipulate organisms through their DNA. And I say that because we don't yet fully understand as a scientific community what all of the effects are of manipulating DNA. And that is why GMO foods or genetically modified organisms are so controversial still, and why a lot of people will only choose the food label that says non-GMO. And that is because we don't yet know what all of the effects are of changing the genetics of a person. So the genetics that we have are our underlying code or instructions for different cells in our body. We have the same DNA in all of our cells, however, each cell only uses certain parts in certain ways based on the chemicals that are around it in its environment. So if we were to reorganize or to start from scratch and build our own DNA sequence or code, it would be amazing to see the potential of what we could create, and we could definitely see how organisms could be different than through natural reproduction that plants and animals currently undertake. However, that is a huge ethical concern because it brings into question not only what life is inherently, but what is the value of something's life. Because what if a person with no experience with DNA sequencing at all puts together a creature that may not necessarily have a healthy or a comfortable or pleasant life? So this is an issue that we must be patient with and definitely use it as a platform to learn more about genetics and more about the biomolecular mechanisms in which the world around us is developed. However, I do not think that we should rush in and get too excited because we may end up making a mistake that we cannot correct. I wonder what everyone else thinks of this issue, because this is something that would, even if I don't create an organism, if I know that my neighbor is doing it, it could affect me. Or if I know that my, not necessarily my neighbor, but if I know that where I'm getting my food from, it was made from a creature created from synthetic DNA or something other than natural reproductive methods, is it the same thing? I don't know. I think that the bottom line here is that there is not enough knowledge out there at this point in history for us to be fully aware of the consequences of the actions that would take place if we were to manipulate the DNA of any organism. So those are my thoughts on genetically modified beings and creating them from scratch through their DNA code. What are your thoughts? Do you think that it's okay to tinker with someone's DNA? If so, why? And do you think it would have any medical value, or would it be more so for fun to say, like, look, I created a puppy with pink fur? Or would you create a sequence that would help someone eliminate heart disease, for example? Or do you think it's a bad idea, we shouldn't even mess with it at all? Or do you find you have a completely different opinion, or you're somewhere in the middle? Well, I'd love to hear from you. Please leave a comment below as to, and tell me, what do you think about modifying DNA sequences in living beings, or starting from scratch to create your own being from a DNA sequence that you would create? Tell me what you think, and if you want to hear more exciting news related to knowledge and the world, please subscribe. Thank you, and have a thoughtful day. Bye. This is an article from a blog on minds.com. You can now design